Welcome to On the Radar, where we break down awesome weather content, not just here at home, but all across the world. And it's October, Paul.
It is October.
You know, and we're closing in on Halloween very soon. And where we are and across the South, it's pretty warm. We're waiting for some colder weather to move in.
Yeah, I thought you were hinting at like masks, like it's Halloween and we got our mask on. At least maybe one of us does. But anyway,
yeah.
Okay, hey, another episode. The first one comes out of Hollywood.
Okay.
Now, don't make the mistake. This producer's going to be nameless, but they said Hollywood.
Which Hollywood?
It floods at California. No, this is Hollywood, Florida. Hollywood, Florida. Why don't you take a look at this? All right. So residents were dealing with what they call a king tide, right? And a king tide is the highest high tide of the year, which occurs when the Earth, Moon, and Sun, they're all aligned, and the Moon is closest point to the Earth in its orbit. Right? These events can lead to increased flooding and erosion, of course, in those low-lying areas. And sometimes, you'll have low tide, you have high tide, you have low tide, high tide. But in the king tide, it's like the highest of the highs. This could be really bad is when there's like a storm system or something.
Oh, yeah.
Then it's really increased. So
when it lines up with the king tide.
Yep.
Yeah. I didn't realize astronomically, celestial objects are lining up to produce these locally higher wave heights.
Oh yeah. When I worked in Lake Charles, long time ago, you'd had these charts and it was very important there. And they could predict the tide. I think it was years in advance.
Really?
Because it goes on the moon and all the cycle. And
if we could predict eclipses and things like that, then we could probably forecast the impacts of lunar activity as well. So that's cool stuff. All right, so that was in Florida. We're going to stay on the topic of flooding and water concerns across the U.S. Matter of fact, we're going to go to North Carolina and take a look at this. This is from Buxton, North Carolina. 8 unoccupied houses along the North Carolina's Outer Banks collapsed into the ocean as Hurricane Umberto, that was a few weeks ago, and Imelda rumbled into the Atlantic. These are the last private beachfront structures to fall into the surf in recent years. Now, we cover hurricane season every year. It seems like this happens pretty often along the East Coast where a lot of these taller structures will be susceptible to not just high tides, but anytime, what's incredible about this, Umberto, Imelda, all these storms have mostly stayed out at sea.
Right.
But it can have indirect impacts, and you're looking at those indirect impacts right now.
If I own property, and this is on the Cape out there, if I own property there, I would have them like on these major, like massive stilts, and like concrete and steel because this is going to happen. I mean, you just can't have them on regular stilts like that, I guess.
I mean, they have to make sure they have flooding insurance, hurricane insurance.
And I hear that's getting harder to come by the way.
Really?
Yeah, more expensive.
And you mentioned like stilts. I mean, look at the house to the left. It looks like it is on stilts. I mean, would you build a house on anything like on? I mean, you mentioned concrete. That seems like the only safe way to do things. But in the Carolinas, Outer Banks, it's just incredible to build houses on.
But then again, I don't know anything about construction.
This is true. We're meteorologists.
I'm not an engineer, so maybe it's not possible. Because it's very sandy there and everything, and plus you're close to the ocean. Well, maybe you can't build with like really heavy structures like steel and like concrete. I don't know.
Well, then you mentioned that, and then beach erosion can also cause an issue. So it just seems prone to a lot of different problems.
Yeah.
Especially if you live along the beach.
I think for years it would be really cool to have a house like that, but then sooner or later something might happen. It's very unfortunate though, and really thoughts and prayers go out to those folks. I know it's probably devastating for them. Okay, we're going to go from to another collapse.
Okay.
But we're going to go from one side of the country to the other. Let's go to California. We're going to go out to Rancho Palos Verdes, California. This was in late September, a little while back. A large chunk of hillside collapsed in the backyards of 4 oceanfront homes in that Rancho Palos Verdes area. It's the latest instance of accelerated land movement in the area. Look at that. That's impressive. About 300 to 400 linear feet of slope had given way, dropping nearly 50 to 60 feet toward the coastline. After back-to-back rainy seasons in 2023, the ground started moving even faster. Now, here's the good part. They've seen the roads buckle and collapse, and some homes have slid off their foundation, but there's no sign of structural damage to those homes. And there's the front of the homes. Look at that. These are not small. places.
I'll tell you, I love California. A few years ago, I went to LA. This past year, I went to San Francisco. Beautiful weather, gorgeous, but man, they're prone to a lot of different natural disasters.
It's unstable.
Very. I mean, from earthquakes to mudslides to atmospheric rivers. I mean, California is susceptible to a lot of different weather.
A lot of things happening. When it's nice in California,
it's
nice. And it's like that for a lot of the time.
When it's bad,
it can be really bad. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is just an example of that. So along the United States West Coast in California.
Nice homes, though.
Yeah. Now let's go a little bit farther southeast. We're going to go to Arizona. And we've talked about this a few times on the show, Paul. But monsoon season, that can be a problem for people that live in the Four Corners, the desert Southwest,
right.
and specifically in Arizona. So take a look at some of this video. Several fatalities were reported about an hour east of Phoenix after massive flooding. The city has, at that time, declared a state of emergency. Search and recovery efforts were underway after devastating flooding hit the area. A lot of the reporters out there talked to residents and business owners about all the destruction, and you can see, firsthand at some of the video and footage of that because of monsoon season. I mean, it just makes the ground so damp, and I don't know how accurate is this, Paul, but they don't get a lot of rain, so whenever they get a ton of rain at one moment or in a couple of days, it causes problems because I guess the ground can't soak in.
Yeah, it just runs. A lot of runoff.
It just creates a lot more runoff.
I remember we had the story on the news, and you would think that it was like a widespread event. This was very localized.
Was it really?
Oh yeah, because I saw the thunderstorm. You could see it on the satellite, and it wasn't very big.
Right.
But it put down a lot of rainfall, and you see the result of what happened there. And that's just east of Phoenix, or about an hour east of Phoenix, in a place called Globe, Arizona. All right. Well, I hope everybody's okay.
Yeah, people, they think monsoon season, that's like widespread heavy rain. No, it's very streamlined.
Can be just in one location,
downpours in localized areas.
And usually the monsoon is starts around July 4th and goes through July and August. It's kind of late in that monsoon season, but it really caused some damage there.
Right.
Okay. Now, you seem, Ryan, like the adventurous type.
That I am. Okay. I like to go biking, hiking, you name it. I like to be out
What's the most
nature.
adventurous thing that you've ever done?
Most adventurous thing I've
ever
done?
Like people would be like, wow. Ooh.
I went to Rocky Mountain National Forest recently, and we spent.
So this happened recent. Okay.
Well, this was maybe a few years ago, and we went camping for a few days up in the higher altitudes of Rocky Mountain.
And you had a bear attack.
Huh?
You had a bear attack. No,
nothing that exciting. But
I'm talking about really.
Well, it's hard to recall something that adventurous in that amount of time. So, but hiking in the mountains, especially for me, I'm from South Texas, so being in the mountains, that's adventurous.
Okay, all right, okay.
Can you recall something adventurous?
Well, I was about to say, are you going to ask me?
Yeah, have you battled a bear, a tiger?
No, not battled a bear or tiger, but I have flown an hour in the F-16 with the Thunderbirds.
Oh, okay.
So that
beat my hiking story.
We're not trying to beat each other here.
Well, you proposed that question
knowing what mine was.
In an effort to bypass my experience. That's kind of what you were going for.
Okay, well, here's what this is all about. Would you go and hike up Mount Everest?
Probably not, because I've read that it can be a month-long process, and
you could die.
You could die. Yeah, it's very difficult to do that.
I wouldn't do Mount Everest either. There's a lot of things that I find adventurous and so forth and so on. But
when I was younger, I think I did, say to myself, man, one day, crossed off my bucket list, get to the highest point on Earth. But now, when you get older, it just doesn't seem feasible.
The one reason I won't is altitude doesn't go good for me. I get headaches, and it really does it bother you too?
Yeah, I've been to Colorado. We went hiking up Pikes Peak, and I think that's 8,000 feet.
Oh man, that's high.
Yeah, and I remember, obviously losing breath. The air's a lot more thin up there, and you get headaches, and a lot of people can get sick. What's it called? Yeah. Altitude sickness.
Altitude sickness.
You know what I'm saying?
Nobody probably cares about this, but I'm going to tell you, my first realization that altitude is real, I was like 8 or 9 years old, and we took a trip up there to Pikes Peak. It was July, and there was snow.
Yeah.
Little pieces, little pockets of snow. So me, my 9-year-old self, I get out of the car, and I run to the snow because I'm excited.
Oh, and then most people would pass out at Pikes Peak.
Right,
you know?
because I was young.
The oxygen's low.
Right, I was like,
Yeah.
"What is going on?" Yeah, no, it's pretty
But
impressive.
let me ask you, how does this relate to Mount Everest?
Okay,
What's going on?
Right, where were we going? We're gonna take it
Because you were running off
This is
the
we're
peak,
going a
you
little
know?
little detour around, but we're gonna get there. We're gonna take the scenic route. Okay, let's take a look at this. This about 900 hikers. That's a lot of hikers.
Yeah.
Guides and other staff who were stranded by a weekend snowstorm up in the Chinese side of Mount Everest have reached safety, which is a good thing. You know, right there at Mount Everest, you got Nepal on one side, I believe, China on the other. A severe storm struck the area, cutting off access to where the hikers were staying in tents at an altitude of more than 16,000 feet. That's about the level where you really need like an aid, like something to help you breathe. I mean,
Well, I think a lot of them bring oxygen tanks to help breathe at certain altitudes.
you get up over about 15, 16,000 feet, and you better be in some really good shape. In all, 580 hikers and more than 300 guys, yak herders. I don't know why they have yak herders up there but anyway, and other workers, they were stranded. Some hikers reportedly had hypothermia, as you can imagine, and the official news agency there said about a dozen of them were escorted to a meeting point by teams with food, medicine, heating, and oxygen supplies. So,
Yeah.
doesn't that sound like fun?
You know, again, when I was younger, I wanted to do this, but you don't realize that you could die up there. That's so scary.
That doesn't seem like too much fun. Too much.
I mean,
fun
you
at
mentioned hypothermia, altitude sickness, just about. I mean, you're battling the elements at that point, and
You're really
Mother
battling.
Nature can have no mercy.
and it is
sometimes, you know?
cold.
Yeah,
Yeah, you could be up there on that mountain and you're like, mercy, and they're gonna get no mercy.
Yeah, especially in any fast-changing weather systems that move through. I mean, look at that. I mean, I imagine there are several, days throughout the year where it's just sunny and clear. But if you're battling rain, snow,
Look at that. I mean, look
high
at that snow.
accumulating, yeah, it's a problem, man. So
Plus, you're getting up to not quite jet stream, but if you have a storm system that comes through there, the winds
the
could
winds
be
are
easily
just-
50, 60, 70 miles an hour.
they're whipping.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, it's a good point. If it's 15 to 20,000 feet, you're close to
You're getting up there.
near the jet stream. You
Yeah,
know?
I mean,
is that
you're-
500 millibar? You know, like I don't know.
You're up there where the airplanes fly, man. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah.
That's incredible. But that's Mount Everest. All right. So let's do one more story. And this is actually in New Mexico. And when you think of New Mexico, Paul, is there anything that comes to mind?
Yeah. The land of enchantment.
Mm-hmm.
That's on their license plates. I know that.
Yeah. And all over social media, this will happen. You'll see the hot air balloons. There's several different festivals. And take a look at this video. This is aerials over the first day of the 53rd Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta in, again, Albuquerque, New Mexico on October 4th.
Yeah.
Now, strong winds forced officials to alter a planned mass ascension that morning. Instead, officials ordered a static display of the balloons. As you can see right there, more than 500 balloons were entered.
Look at we're not going to comment, but look at that one.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then now the size of the Balloon Fiesta Park, which was used for staging and launching the balloons, was the equivalent of 54 football fields put together according to event organizers. So, I mean, you have to have a lot of land to host all that. And then not to mention everybody and their mom is there supporting each other. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I've always wanted to go to some of those hot air balloon festivals. Yeah, it just looks like fun. I'm kind of scared to get in the hot air balloon because you just don't know, I don't know what the accident rate is, but winds are going fast, 1,000 feet in the air or whatever it is. And then, the balloon could pop,
Ryan, I seem fearless. I seem like
Yeah, you seem like
somebody that would be fearless of just nothing. But
okay.
I'm gonna pull back the curtain here.
Can you peel back the onion
yes,
layer?
because I've got a lot more Neanderthal than most,
Okay.
and my brain. At least this is what 23andMe told me. My brain doesn't work like a lot of folks. I look with my eyes and not feeling, or something like that. I got a fear. What I'm getting to is I got a fear of heights.
Oh.
So
you don't like roller coasters or anything?
I love roller coasters and airplanes and stuff.
You don't mind that?
But if it's too open,
Yeah.
like this,
Yeah, you're way too. You're exposed.
It does. It will freak me out, and I do not like hot air balloons.
Yeah, no, I share your opinion on that.
Matter of fact, I went to a festival a couple of years ago, and they had one that was just tethered. It wasn't even moving. And I was I was telling people, don't move.
Don't move.
Stay still.
Sorry.
Don't move.
You just missed Darth Vader and Yoda. I think.
Well, no, they got all kinds. Look at that.
That's incredible. But yeah, being on a hot air balloon just
I hear
sounds
laughter.
scary.
Are you laughing at?
I don't know. Our directors are laughing at us. It's okay. All right. Well, next and coming up on the radar is a fun little segment called Forecast and Falsecast.
I'm going to be honest. The first time I didn't do so hot.
Yeah, I think you went half and half. You went for 500.
I was very disappointed with myself. And
yeah, you scored a 50%.
I kept myself from. Yeah,
we're hoping
I didn't eat lunch that day. I was so disappointed.
Yeah, we're hoping for you to get 100% on this next segment of Forecast and Falsecast.
Redemption.
We're hoping for it. So coming up after the break, we'll have the latest installment of Forecast and Falsecast, and we'll see if Paul
can redeem himself.
We'll see.
And welcome back to On the Radar, Beyond the Forecast. Okay, if you watch I believe it was the last episode, we played this game, and there were a couple where I thought I was very, very close to getting it.
Yeah, you were.
But anyway, I'm not trying to make excuses, but I didn't do as well as I thought I would do.
It's just a game, Paul. There's no need to.
No, I'm a very competitive person, and so I should get everyone right. The bar is really high, and I should get up. I should do that.
Let's start with the first question.
Okay.
And this year has been pretty active, Paul. The severe weather season, and these questions go back, either a decade or 100 years. But here's the question we're starting off with. Earlier this year in southern Mississippi, 2 tornadoes struck the same exact location within 1 hour.
Were you a teacher before?
Because part of me wanted to be a teacher, actually.
Well, you've got an art. I mean, you're pretty skilled at making questions that are plausible.
I should write tests. Yeah,
you really should. Yeah. You know what? I am not familiar with this situation. Nobody really. Right. Yeah, I mean, I'm already making excuses. Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna say, you know what? And it's really not a forecast. That's more of like a report. But I'm going to go with forecast.
You are correct. Yeah, you are correct. Yes. That's 1 for 1.
Yes. Let's go. Let's go.
All right. You got 1 for 1. I like that. Yeah, so this was actually in the western part of the county. I believe it was in Covington County.
Western part of Mississippi?
Western part of the state in Covington County, where one was an EF4 and the other was an EF2.
That must have been close to like Hattiesburg or something.
Yeah, and you know what kind of gave it away? Mississippi. I mean, that's not Tornado Alley. That's
Dixie Alley.
Dixie Alley. Yeah. But Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia. I mean,
they could have some mean tornadoes.
They get a lot of those squall lines move through, and
they could have some mean tornadoes. I know, and I think it was 2018 in Louisville, Mississippi.
Yeah.
Well, they had an F4 that just tore that little town. Man, my God.
All right, let's go to question number 2. Let's see if Paul can continue his streak.
Okay.
Back in November of 2024, the Philippines was slammed by 4 different typhoons, all in 1 month.
Boy, that's at the very end of the season.
Yes, but remember the Westpac, the West Pacific.
It's a little more rambunctious for a little longer.
It can be very active in the later part of the season.
That's a lot of typhoons all in 1 month. And 4 in 1 month that late in the season, the odds are not good. So I'm going to say you have just created a false cast.
You were not.
Yes.
No. It was a forecast.
Oh, it was forecast.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, you said false cast. Boo. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, that's a tricky one, man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go back and look at the record books on that one, but
no, I wish I had.
You'll do that for me.
I have the information somewhere. I just have to. I'd have to find it.
Well, we can do that later.
Yes, we can do that later. All right, let's go to question.
I will take your word for it right now. I'm sure.
But it did happen. It did happen.
Okay, it did happen. So I'm one for 2.
Yeah, so you're 50% right now.
In baseball terms, I'm doing good.
Yeah, it's only the second inning.
If I'm an NFL quarterback, not so good.
Let's go to question number 3. On January 22nd, 1943, the town of Spearfish in South Dakota recorded a 49. I don't know why that says 49 twice, but 49-degree rise in temperature in just 2 minutes.
Okay.
And I do remember where this is at. so I can provide context.
Well, it's Spearfish, South Dakota.
If you want more context, let me know.
No,
But,
it's Spearfish, South Dakota. A lot of folks don't realize this, but if the winds come out of the west, downsloping off the Rockies, it's called the Chinook.
Yeah.
And so you can warm up. Matter of fact, you can warm up faster than that.
Right.
And so I'm going to say that was a Chinook and that it did happen. And that is a forecast.
That is a forecast. You got it correct, Mr.
All right,
Paul.
I'm 3 for 3.
Yeah.
Oh, no. 2 for 3.
Yeah. So this was, you already know where Spearfish is, but it's in the Black Hills of western South Dakota.
Yeah.
And again, downsloping winds and
the Chinook.
Yeah, strong cold air masses along with those downsloping winds can create huge variations in temperature.
Oh, yeah. If that was in January in Spearfish, oh my goodness, it could have been like literally like 0 or something like that, we'll just say.
Yeah.
And then warmed up to about near 50 degrees. That could easily happen there in that part of the world. Yeah.
So that's in South.
Now you know Chinook. That's the reason you watch this show. You can't find this stuff anywhere else. Well, I guess you could, but that's why you watch it.
But we're providing the info and the fun, so. Let's talk about question 4. In 2005, Hurricane Wilma recorded the lowest central pressure at 882 millibars. And I think you might know about this, Paul, because, again, you were forecasting at the time.
Oh, yeah. I remember Wilma. I think Wilma is the one that hit, like, southwestern Florida. Came up, like, close to the Yucatan, and they were in southern Gulf, and then kind of hit southern Florida. I believe I'm right about that.
Yeah, and that's a pretty powerful
yeah, that's correct,
hurricane,
right? Now, here's my dilemma.
The pressure.
Is, when you get, you have a few years, after a while, all of these storms run together. Which one had the lowest pressure? But you know what? You brought it up, and I know Wilma did, because Wilma was an intense hurricane. It battered Yucatan for a while and then moved on. You know what? Let's go for it, because I know that there's some trickery trying to be involved here, but I'm not going to buy it. I'm going to go with forecast.
It is. Yeah, you're correct. Yeah, you got it. You got it. Are you sweating?
I'm giving myself a high five. Am I sweaty?
It just looks like you're like, oh, man.
Well, I'm excited. There is a difference. If you're sweaty and excited.
All right, let's wrap up forecast and falsecast with this final
Hold on, what
question.
am I now? Is that 4 out of 5?
So, well, for this particular episode, you're 3 and 1.
It seems like I got more right than 3.
No,
I guess so. 3.
No,
okay.
You got 1 wrong.
So 3 out of 4.
Yeah, 3.
So because we're going 5. Oh, well, it says question 4 right there.
Yeah, we're going 1 more.
Paul, pay attention.
So pay attention, Paul. Here's question number 5. In the 2020 Atlantic hurricane season, Louisiana was hit by 7 tropical storms. 5 were strong hurricanes. So of those tropical storms that were named, 5 of them became strong hurricanes. Is that a forecast or is that a false cast?
Wow.
Wow. I am stumped.
Yeah. One thing I can tell you is I worked in Louisiana for 5 years, and that was like a good luck charm. They didn't have a single one. But we're talking about 2020.
Yeah, because remember, 2020
was an active season.
Do you remember in that season, we went down to the Greek alphabet?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's
very, very busy
2005, that happened in 2020. We ran out of names, so we had to resort to the Greek alphabet.
Now, when you say 5 strong hurricanes, you talking major hurricanes?
Just category 1 or stronger.
Well, what's a weak hurricane then?
Well, I'm just
take out the word strong in hurricanes?
Yeah, I would just say because
it makes a difference.
Yeah, because I didn't put major for a reason. I know because hurricanes can be. Good question. That's a good question. Yeah, that is a good question.
It was a category half hurricane. Those are the weak ones. Anything above 1. Okay, so wow,
what's a weak hurricane?
Right. It was 7 tropical storms. That is definitely possible. 7 systems, but 5 hurricanes in 1 year. Boy, that is huge.
Yeah, take out the word strong. Just
five hurricanes in 1 year in 2020.
Can you name at least a few of those hurricanes? Because I think a couple of them were retired.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of them did damage to Lake Charles, for example.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say
that was the year Laura.
Yes.
Yeah.
You are correct.
Yeah.
You are correct.
You know what?
What?
It sounds improbable.
But remember the crazy year.
It sounds improbable, but there were so many that year.
Okay.
I'm going to go with forecast. I knew it was too many. You were such a good writer. I mean,
apparently not, because Strong was in there.
Man, you were good.
I should have put.
It was probably like
I should
4
have put
hurricanes,
5 strong
probably.
hurricanes, and instead of, maybe I could have put major hurricanes, so Cat 3 or stronger.
So 3 out of 5. That's a 60 in some books. That's passing, in some it's not.
Well, I'll tell you what. Each episode, you're getting a little bit better. Last episode, you were 500. So this episode, you're at about 60%. 60%. So you're moving in the right direction, Paul.
That's not good. But that was a good one. So what was the answer? You can't come up with it and not have the answer.
I have I just don't have my notes out, and I wish they were in the rundown. But I believe it was 3 to 4 hurricanes, and I put 5.
Okay, it was probably just short.
Yeah,
because
I believe
so the 7 part is right.
No, I think no. I have to. I think it's 5 to 6.
Okay,
storms.
Okay, it was storms. A little bit. It wasn't quite as strong with it.
Yeah, man. I exaggerated the.
I was right on the fence on that one.
Yeah. So,
but these are fun.
Yeah, because you've got
it
seems plausible.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, that was Forecast and Falsecast here on Ken's
Hopefully you had as much fun as we did.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun. So coming up after the break, we'll do one more interesting segment, and it's called Weather Way Back. We'll have the details.
We need to have like a song, Weather Way Back.
We'll come back.
Weather Way Back.
Welcome back to On the Radar, and this is a new segment we're introducing on this awesome episode of On the Radar Beyond the Forecast. This is one of the ways, Paul, we go beyond the forecast, because I'll tell you, especially with you having so much experience in meteorology, to know more about forecasting, it's important to know where we've been and how we've gone through historical weather events, because those inform the future, the present, and how we forecast for specific weather events, whether that's tropical meteorology, winter weather forecasting, severe weather forecasting. And this is an awesome new weather segment called Weather Way Back.
Yeah, no doubt. Climatology, you got to know climatology and what's happened in history. And, what do they say? If you're looking in the rearview mirror, then you're not looking straight ahead. But what does that have to do with it? That has absolutely nothing to do with Weather Way Back.
But again, so, we like to do this segment because it helps inform the present.
Yeah.
Especially with, recent historical floods, historical severe weather outbreaks.
Yeah. If you know what happened in the past, you know what's possible in the future.
Exactly. So this episode of Weather Way Back, we're going to talk about the 1998 Central to South Texas flood, which, Paul, by the way, were you forecasting at this point in time, or were you still farther north?
In 98, I was in Lake Charles.
Okay.
Lake Charles, Louisiana.
Gotcha.
And
so
I remember hearing about it, but I wasn't here. I saw the video. I think the whole world saw some of the video. This was a big event in South Central Texas.
Matter of fact, take a look at the video right now.
Yeah.
And we can start by showing you just how historical this event was, Paul.
Yeah, this was in October of 1998, and in South Central Texas, usually the westerlies take over, and in mid-October, South Central Texas is much more likely to be affected by Pacific hurricanes instead of hurricanes out of the Gulf. So this is the very textbook way that things can go really bad in October in South Central Texas. So the setup here, this happened in October 17th through the 18th of 1998. There were a pair of hurricanes over the eastern Pacific.
You see right there.
Yes. Okay. And also at the same time, there was a frontal boundary moving in with cold air across the northern part of the country, and that was pushing in. And you barely can make that out, but the bullseye, 30 inches of rain fell. Oh, and we got an assist. You can see the two hurricanes there to the south.
Right.
And just the way that the wind flow with the jet stream, the subtropical jet, it was flowing that moisture, the mid and high level moisture, out of the Pacific over South Central Texas. At the same time, we had a moisture feed out of the Gulf, and we had this frontal boundary that came in, and it just caused disastrous flooding along the Guadalupe River and over the San Antonio area. So all that moisture was in place. So while all that moisture was in place, we also had the two hurricanes, by the way, one of them was Madeline and one was Lester. Okay. So that cold front came in, and that was the focus for heavy rains. But even before the front arrived, torrential rains began to develop in the what we call the escarpment.
Right.
For those that don't know the topography, from San Antonio southward, it's fairly flat and plainsy. But just right San Antonio, just north, you start getting into the hills. And so that moisture just really lifted up. And so it had big like MCS events and over that frontal boundary, and all kinds of problems occurred.
And, people don't think like hurricanes in October, but they happen. And even if they're farther away off the coast of Mexico, with the mountains and the terrain kind of protecting us, that moisture can stream farther east. And then you mentioned a boundary moving into south central Texas. That's the lifting mechanism. And then you have the moisture, the fuel in the tank to get rain going. So it was just a perfect storm where we saw on some of those not radar estimates, but from the National Weather Service, kind of the contour lines of the rain accumulation. I think you mentioned, Paul, anywhere from 15 to 25, 30 inches of rain fell in just a couple of days' time, which is no one needs that kind of rain in that short amount of time.
No, and I remember one of the most vivid videos was like whole houses going down the river.
Yeah.
It was incredible. So the bullseye had over 30 inches of rain estimated near San Marcos. Which is incredible, just incredible.
And it just submerges cars, property. It just sweeps them away.
Yeah.
And water, fast-moving water can just be so dangerous. I mean, even if you're just in, a foot of water, it can cause huge problems. And there's, for example, a flood gauge over 4 feet right there. Mm-hmm. But there's satellite imagery of those two different tropical storms and hurricanes.
Man, I got to ask you, how did you get that?
National Weather Service.
They had it. Okay.
They had it in their write-up about the October 1998 flood, and again, that's their rain accumulation estimate, and anywhere from 20 to 30 inches between northeastern San Antonio up the I-35 corridor. But right there, 1998.
Yeah, just everything coming together just perfectly, and sometimes in South Central Texas, if you're not familiar, you can have some major flooding. I mean, major flooding.
Yeah, so we're always on alert in October because you think, cold fronts are coming in. It's the fall season. Things are going to calm down. But, man, October can be very volatile, and things can pop off very quickly.
Very quickly. Well, thank you for that. I didn't get to hear the music, but is it got like a Western theme?
I think so, according to our awesome director, Miss Gabby. I think there is some cool music, and we'll hear that in post. So.
Well, next time that we have this, we'll be able to know what the kind of the how it sounds, what the vibe is. And maybe we can make up our own words. I don't know if it has words, but
yeah, well, that's cool. That's our first edition of Weather way back here on Kent's 5 Plus and on the radar, beyond the forecast. That's one way we go beyond the forecast here on streaming. And just to mention, if you want us to cover a specific weather event that was historical in your neck of the woods, whether that is Texas or across the U.S. or anywhere across the world, we like looking into those facts and those details about weather events because, again, the past helps inform the present. So send in your weather videos and weather content, weather photos to kensweather@kens5.com, and also your ideas and your maybe tips and advice on what should we cover next on the radar, beyond the forecast, Paul.
Okay, all right. And I guess we'll leave you with this. If you know where you've been, then you know where not to go?
Yeah. I like how the past informs the
where
present,
to go. I don't know.
That's also a good little mantra.
That's all I could come up with. But anyway, we had fun. Another fun episode.
Great episode of On the Radar, Beyond the Forecast.
Okay, we'll see you later.